Hello, everyone. Welcome to Building a Better Bee, Simultaneous Guided Practice. My name is Jake. It's wonderful to see everybody. It's 10:30. We're going to go ahead and get started. You should see on your screen a bit.ly link. First thing I would ask all of you to do is follow that bit.ly link. It's bit.ly/ all caps HCS-SGP. Maybe one of my teammates will throw that into the chat for you so you can click right on it. That will enroll you in the course that we are presenting this to you in today, so that if you want to reference any of the materials or click links or complete activities, you can do that from right inside the Canvas course. So follow that bit.ly link. Once it's this link right here, once you follow that link, on the first page of the module for today is a bell ringer for you to complete. It's right here. It's a discussion bell ringer. We'd like you to answer the question that is on that discussion page and then come right back to the module. I'm going to give you a pro tip right now. If you right click on this link and choose open in new tab, as soon as the internet cooperates, there it is. It opens in a new tab for you so you can answer it, and when you're done, all you have to do is close it and come right back to where you were instead of following it all the way across. Okay, so go ahead and complete that bell ringer. We'll give you like 2 minutes and then we'll get started with the rest of today's session. I'm not actually going to go and look at the answers to that bell ringer right now. We are going to refer to them later on in today's session. So add to it as you can. We'll come back and reference it here in a little bit. As I said, my name is Jake. My teammate Sam is here as well. She's currently off camera over here, but say hi, Sam. Hey. There she is. You'll hear some more out of her in just a little while. But for now, we want to go ahead and get started. Couple housekeeping things. It's always the super boring, and I hate that phrase when people are like, let's do the housekeeping, but I don't know what else to call it. So that's what we're going to do. Please keep yourselves muted and direct your questions to the chat for us. That way things aren't getting too crowded in the audio department. I do have several other members of our team here who will attempt to answer questions. I'm sure they can in the chat, and if not, they'll bring them to our attention. But ask your questions there, and then there will be time for you to unmute and ask questions later on. But for now, just kind of keep muted for us. All right, so let's get started talking about simultaneous guided practice in hybrid instruction. But before we do that, we need to talk about exactly why we're here. I've teased it a little bit, but we are going to gain a better understanding of the hybrid model of instruction and the strategies for conducting guided practice with in-person and virtual students simultaneously. That's a mouthful. I've highlighted what I think are the important phrases or important words in that phrase. So we're going to talk about the hybrid model a little bit. I'm sure you've heard about it. If you've watched our last session, we talked about it a bit more, and then there's another session before that. So we've gotten hybrid model from a few different places. We're going to review real quick today. We're going to talk about guided practice specifically, and I'll get there in just a moment. And of course, I think we all know what simultaneously means, but we are going to brush up on what that means for us and our students. So where did my mouse go? There it is. All right. First, let's talk about hybrid learning. When we say hybrid learning, what are we talking about? Here's what we mean when we say hybrid learning. Okay, hybrid learning is an educational model where some students are face-to-face and other students are online. We've been dealing with that for a while. The difference is that the learning is linear and not repetitive or recursive. Learning activities are synchronous and asynchronous. Okay, so let's talk about those highlighted phases. So the mixture of our students, our online students and our face-to-face students, is unavoidable, at least right now. Someday, when things are back to normal, we won't have to worry about this as much, but for now it's unavoidable. So what do we mean when we talk about linear versus repetitive? It means you're not looping your instruction. So if I think about the way that some teachers perhaps were teaching in this hybrid environment back at the beginning of the year with an A schedule and a B schedule, it was very tempting and maybe easier in our minds to teach the same thing twice, right? I'm going to teach something to my A students on Monday, and I'm going to teach the same thing to my B students on Tuesday. So they're getting the same thing 2 times in a row, and then they're working on something else while they're at home and away from you. This is different than that. This is a linear model of instruction, meaning that just like you would if you had all of your students in person, you're going to teach a linear lesson Monday through Friday. So you're not going back and repeating the same thing twice. The only difference is that some of your students are with you and some of them are not. So you're going to teach the same content at the same time simultaneously to your students who are with you and who are at home. Okay, so you can imagine that that student is actually there, except they're not. They're several miles away at their house. So we're not looping back. So instead of doing looping lessons, we're doing a linear progression. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And then of course, when we talk about synchronous and asynchronous, those are probably terms that we've heard until like so much we're tired of hearing them, but things that we are completing with the teacher all at the same time, and then asynchronous that we are completing on our own schedule or on our. Everybody clear there? This is probably all review for you by now, but worth mentioning, especially in the context of today. So the other thing we talked about is that this session is about guided practice. Now, I'm not going to take you back to Education 201, your college course that talks about what guided practice is, but we are really quickly going to kind of stipulate, that's the word, what we're talking about when we're talking about guided practice in the context of today. So of course, we all know guided practice is where the teacher is involved in helping the students use what they've learned, right? So it's not the direct instruction, it's not the independent practice, this is guided practice. This can happen in many different ways throughout the school day. As an elementary person myself, I know that guided practice can happen a lot during the whole group setting. For instance, right after your direct instruction. But for the purposes of today, we have chosen to focus on how to conduct guided practice in small group settings. You probably have some strategies about whole group and direct instruction. As a matter of fact, if you were lucky enough to attend Ms. Covington's session, was it last week? Just last week already, right? It's just last week. Just last week on direct instruction, you saw some great strategies for direct instruction and whole group there. Some of those are applicable to guided practice and whole group too. We want to focus on what's different and what might be stressing us a little bit, and that's how do we do small groups guided practice simultaneously. So that's what we're going to focus on today. But we do want to acknowledge that we know that guided practice isn't just in small groups, but what we're going to look at today is small groups. All right. Also, I did include a link on this page to our YouTube channel because I think if it's not there, it probably will be soon. I think it might be there already, but the recording of the direct instruction session, I don't want to say anything that's wrong, is up on the YouTube channel, or if it's not, it will be. But there's the link to the YouTube channel anyway. There's tons of great stuff on there. Go check it out. Okay. I've done enough qualifying about today, and we're just going to continue on. So, how can I lead small groups simultaneously? I'm going to introduce you to Zoom. It's not actually an introduction. You are probably well acquainted with Zoom. Some of you might want to break up with Zoom right now. So it's not the first time you've met, but I would like to tell you about Breakout Rooms. If you haven't used Breakout Rooms before, they are going to be your best friend for this session. So in just a moment, Sam is going to lead us through a brief model lesson showing how you can use Breakout Rooms in a couple of different ways, actually, to conduct simultaneous small group instruction with your students. Sam, do you want me to steal any thunder and give a little precursor to like how that's going to work, or are you going to explain that afterwards? Okay. I don't want to take away from my teammates' plans, ad-libbing here, but basically you're going to set up small groups or breakout rooms for your small groups to work in, and you're going to meet with them there. That's one way. And there are a couple other ways. You know, I'm just going to be quiet. I don't want to steal it all from her, so I'm going to let her just show you. Okay. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to my colleague Sam to lead you through the model lesson. So let me scoot out of the way. You want me to leave this unmuted for you right now? This is I'm going to scoot this way.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to give a couple of disclaimers. If you hear me use a particular term, if I was in the classroom, my students would already be familiar with those terms and those protocols that would already be in place. So for the sake of timing, I'm not going to teach you every protocol, but if you hear me using a term, my disclaimer is the fact that my students would have already been introduced to those particular terms and protocols, all right? So I am going to move this over here. Is this the, perfect. All right, so we have just finished our direct instruction. And so now we're getting ready to move on into our guided practice. But before we go forth, I want my Zoomies, my students who are on Zoom, I want you to turn in your digital, your Google Draw, and then I want my students, my roomies, I want you guys to turn in your picture of your work and upload it into Canvas, okay? So I've got my Zoomies and my roomies. Today we are operating on our small group schedule. So with that being said, we have groups comprised of both Zoomies and roomies for our small groups. All right, so we're operating on our small group schedule. We have group A, group B, and group C. Okay, you're going to receive an invitation on the screen that's going to allow you to join one of my breakout rooms in Zoom. And I am going to pop from room to room. I'll be with you for 5 minutes. When I am not in your room, you will take advantage of Canvas. You're going to open up Canvas, that course that we enrolled in earlier, and you're going to go in there and you're going to work on whatever is due. We do have things in place for you. I have a checklist for you so that way you can know what you're responsible for. I have verbal instructions in there and we have written instructions, okay? So when I am not in the room with you, you're going to be working in your breakout room on what you are responsible for today. Please keep in mind that you are in these breakout rooms with other students, but you are still responsible for your own work. So make sure that you remember that. My students who are inside of the room, I'm going to call you up to my table whenever I'm ready for you. And those of you who are on Zoom, you're going to accept the invitation, okay? You're in this room, so feel free to ask 3 before me. There is a ask for help button located in the bottom of Zoom. All right, and you can look at that, click on that if you need assistance, but you're in a room with other people, so ask 3 before me. All right, so once again, when I am not in your room, you will be on Canvas, making sure that you complete that work, and I will be in your room we will be in the room together for 5 minutes. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and push out our breakout rooms. Give me a quick minute. Also, once you click on your groups, let me say this. Once you click on whatever group that you're in, it's going to be indicated by that breakout room in Zoom. Once you click on that, okay, there we go. Once you click on it, at the bottom of your work, it has a little thing right here that says, I'm done, send me back, and it's gonna move you along, all right? So move you along. Take advantage of those buttons that are already in place. All right, so I've got group A, group B, and group C. 23, 6, and 7. All right. Let me check my chat. Is everybody good? All right, so we all understand what we are supposed to be doing. All right, I'm gonna have my face-to-face, my roomies. I'm gonna have Ms. Roberts and Ms. Shannon Roberts and Ms. Covington, if you could join me up here at my station. All right, hello everybody. Uh-oh, you can't see me. Hello everybody. All right, I am going to make sure that I set up you guys in gallery view so that way I can see all of my students. We have 5 minutes here with us. I have 2 of my students, my face-to-face students. So we're one big old group today, okay? All right, so for the sake of time, I'm not going to actually go through what we would do, but you guys are representing my low-level group. Oh, okay. All right, so I'm meeting with you guys first because you guys need the most support. So for this particular standard, we're still on 3MD1. This is an extension from last week, but this is just the guided practice portion, all right? All right, so our learning targets are tell the time within, to the nearest minute, within the same hour, and the other one is write the time, to the nearest minute, okay? So for my low group students, we would draw our number line, all right, our timeline that we've already learned, and then we would identify the, keep on moving. So with my, I would draw the timeline, and then we would assign, we would go ahead and assign whatever is in our word problem. We would go ahead and indicate that time. So for this particular problem, at 7 a.m., Candace wakes up and goes to school. It takes her 8 minutes to shower, 9 minutes to get dressed, 17 minutes to eat breakfast. How many minutes does she have until the bus comes for 8 a.m.? So I would have my low-level students indicate both of those times, all right? Then that's the only thing we would do for like maybe problem 1 and 2. But for the third problem, I probably would have them go through the same steps again, and then I would solve for them. On the fourth problem, that's when we would go through the same steps again, but have them solve themselves, okay? All right, so with that being said, we've already went over our learning targets, and I probably would use my Zoom whiteboard. I probably would have my students to turn around, my students that are in the room, turn around their papers, and then I would make sure that if I wanted you guys to talk to both of them, I could set it up just like that, all right? And so that my students at home could do the exact same thing. And if I needed this information later on, then guess what? They could take a picture of it and submit it in Canvas, all right? So what are you guys thinking right now? Let's just check in. What are you guys thinking? I know you've done breakout rooms before. There's a couple more options that we can add. Tell me what you think. Let's check in.
So my question is about visuals. Like if you were talking, I'm assuming that there'd be some visuals there.
Yes.
In the students.
Yes.
Okay, so you said you would use your whiteboard.
Yes.
What would that look like?
All right, so I've got my share screen open, and then I would click on whiteboard, and then we got a minute and 25. But I would click on whiteboard, and I would go ahead and draw my number line out, okay? So that's a good tool. That way my students at home can see this, and then it's good for my other students as I'm drawing it out, and I have some type of visual that I can show my roomies. All right, so once again, I'm going to click on share screen, and it allows you to save as well. You can always use that model for later. But I would click on share screen, and then I would click on the whiteboard.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, what else? What else are you guys thinking?
So I have a question. So I teach second grade. So how long would you, because my principal is expecting us to have 20 minutes.
Yep. That's right.
So what would you, that's a long time for breakout room, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it is.
So like how would you kind of like combat the like raise hand, say I need help?
Gotcha. So,
Like I need assistance.
so we're gonna talk about that right afterwards. But you did hear me say the ask three before me. Right? And then we've got another solution for you in a couple of seconds, okay? In a couple of minutes. All right, so we're breakout room is closing. You guys can go back to Canvas, okay? All right, group B, what y'all doing? What y'all doing? What y'all doing? Hello, y'all gonna do. Hey, group B, what y'all doing? What's up? Hello? Oh, hey. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start our small group session. For the sake of time, I am not going to make you do any work, okay? But I want to simulate what I will be doing with my Group B students. So you guys are simulating my on-level students, okay? And so I also have my 2 on-level students with them in the room. And so at the same time, I have my Chromebook open, so that way we're one big happy family, okay? I probably wouldn't face it towards me. I probably would, when it's time for that discussion and things like that, I probably would leave it that way, and I would pull all of you guys up. Okay, so with my medium level, on-level group for this particular standard, going again, our learning targets are tell time to the nearest minute within the hour, write time to the nearest minute within the hour. All right, so, let me see. these word problems. And then, as the teacher, I would guide you through, since this is guided practice, I would guide you through each step as you solve. And I probably would take turns, you know, sharing out so that way both my Zoomies and my Roomies will get a chance to make sure, so I can know that if they need help or support with mastering that skill. All right, so we would go through those word problems, and then I would, you know, kind of guide you with what's our first step. What do we do? What is this problem saying? Where do I, you know, what would I use? Because you guys kind of know, you know, what strategy you're going to use. So for my last group, we did the number line, and we just had them indicate for the first one or two problems what they would do, and then I solved the third one for them, and then the fourth one they solved. But you guys are my own level students, so I would just help guide you and let you kind of let you do it for yourself, okay? So tell me right now, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? Like where, you know, I know you've done breakout rooms before, but what are you thinking right now? What are some issues? What are some problems? We've got 2 minutes in this breakout room. There's another thing we can do. Go ahead.
Would be trying to keep or trying to manage the rest of the other ones.
Gotcha. I got it.
Sure that they're on track.
All right. I got a solution for you. You just hold it right there, but you're on track. I got a solution for you. A couple of options that you can use, and then as I, you know, just give you that little seed, then maybe something else will, you know, come to mind. Okay. So I do have that for you. What else? Anybody else? All right, so there is a way that in Zoom, if you don't know, you can share your screen and click on whiteboard, and then that gives me the opportunity to draw my number line, and then I can turn it around so that way my other students are able to see as well. Okay, so that way we're operating as one big small group. I know that's weird, but one cohesive small group. You can use that to annotate, and there's a way for you to save it in case you need to, you know, refer back to it later, upload it in Canvas, what you guys came up with. Anybody have any issues when it comes to breakout rooms besides the part of managing other students? We'll get to that in a second.
See, we just actually started doing the hybrid learning here at Gauntlet.
Okay.
And so, it's actually going really good. And I actually have forgotten about the whiteboard feature on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually can be very useful for me as a music teacher, helping those students. And I didn't know that you could actually, you know, save on the screen on the Zoom meeting for, you know, to be able to put that onto Canvas. And so but the only issue that I may have is like, you know, I've never actually I haven't worked with Zoom enough a lot to actually know how to do like breakout rooms and stuff like that. So it's just going to be like constant practice. Constant practice for me.
Wow.
Miss Ray, how do you download and save that from the whiteboard?
Yes, so I'm gonna go to my share screen. There it goes, whiteboard, and then as I'm sharing, and our time is up, but let me show you this real quick. As I'm sharing, do you see the controls right here? There's my save, and it's asking me, it's what saving as a PNG. So that's really, really good when I get ready to upload it later.
Save as a PNG.
Yes, ma'am, just click save right here after you go ahead and annotate on it. All right, guys. No problem. I gotta go. Please stay on Zoom. We got 5 more minutes and 1 more group, okay? Thank you.
Miss Carol.
Okay, third group breakout room. It's like I can't see. There we go.
Do I need to do anything else?
Hello, Group C. Hello, you guys. Today, I want you to, look at y'all in here working. I want you guys to go ahead and, stop what you're doing, and I am going to stop sharing. Miss Ray, we here. Are we related?
I don't know.
Okay, cool. All right. All right, so you guys are simulating my high-level students, okay? So I'm not gonna make you actually, or ask you to do, you know, what we would do, but I'm just going to tell you what I would do with my high level students, okay? So you guys are my above level students, so with you, we would go through a couple of word problems because you already know how to use your number line, you already know which parts of the word problem you need to pull out, okay? And I would go through these word problems with you, and we would simulate different strategies. We would do different strategies. So we could use the timeline, we could use the T-chart, we can use the Zoom, that Zoom model, okay? So after we did that, we would solve a couple of problems, and I would say, okay, problem number one, this word problem, let's use our timeline to solve it. And you guys would walk through the steps because you already are above level, and you know you don't need those, you know, those actual checkpoints, okay? Because I'm sure you got it. So then after that, just to further it a little bit better, because I am a fan of creation versus consumption, I would have you guys have a, you would create an anchor chart that can be later, and what we can do, I guess you could create the anchor chart with your favorite strategy that you find easy to use, or we can hang it up in the room and you can do both strategies, but create something nice, pretty, and colorful, even if it was digital, and then we can print it out and hang it up and share it with other students, okay? So that's how I would further you guys. But as of right now, as far as logistics, I have my other students within the room with me, and they're able to show, you know, their work, and you guys at home will be able to show your work and later, you know, upload it if that's needed. I also can share my screen, and I have my whiteboard, and that's what that looks like. So I went to share, and then I went to whiteboard, and I'm able to draw that number line, or I'm able to come down here, and I'm able to draw my T-chart, okay? And that's one of the strategies that we would use. And I'm able to type on it. If you're like me and you just can't stand the ugly writing, then you can type on this as well. And it gives you an opportunity to save it. And it's a PNG file later that you can upload it into Canvas or pull it out whenever you need it, okay? So that's what we would do. So let's check in. What are you guys feeling? Have you done breakout rooms before? How are you feeling?
I've done breakout rooms, but what I did, I guess I'm doing it wrong, is that I had my children that were in the room to join
Okay.
Zoom, and I put them in, all of them in breakout rooms.
Gotcha. Which is there's no right or wrong answer, which is okay. If that worked, you know, well for you guys, then you know it works. So I don't.
But they all had headphones, so I was able to pull the group that was in class and on Zoom into one breakout room.
Gotcha. I think sometimes if we want to reduce those who are in person with us, if we want to reduce their Zoom time, it's a good thing to have them not to join the Zoom room. But there's no right or wrong answer. It's all in, you know, how you want to do it. It's in preference. All right.
I definitely think that the smaller the groups,
Yes.
the better. So I think I've helped with now math and ELA for the 5th grade, and then I'm doing PE right now hybrid. So I don't have to use a lot of small groups or breakout rooms with PE.
Gotcha.
But with more the 5th grade math and ELA, the smaller the groups, the more successful it's been.
Okay. All right. That's good
And
insight.
of course, they are grouped up by tier. So making sure your tier 1,
Yep.
tier 2, tier 3s are grouped up the way they're supposed to.
All right.
But my
Gotcha.
kids, the ones that are in class, they're not on Zoom. They're only on Zoom when we go to small groups.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
That was good. Good.
they're not on Zoom.
Good. That's good. That's more. All right. We've got 12 seconds, so I'm gonna go ahead and if there's not anybody else, I'm gonna go ahead and push us back. And you guys can. I'll see you in a little bit. All right, so we are back. Thank you. Good. Thank you, Ms. Maloney. All right, so we are back. Let's talk about what we just saw. Okay, let's talk about what we just saw. And I'm gonna move over here because I am done with my model lesson. So let me step on over here. Let's talk about what we just saw. So you saw the option of 3 rooms, 3 rooms, that breakout rooms that were opened up, and the teacher was, she set her timer and she floated back and forth to each one of those rooms. While she was gone, I had my on-level work in Canvas and in my LMS for my other students, to complete. And then I had my roomies that were my students that were in the room. I had them to join me over here at my table, and we were one group, one small group, okay, one cohesive small group together. So with that being said, there are many ways you can do it. Found out from Ms. Moore in a breakout room, there was something else that she did, but there are some options that we can play around with as well. So in my breakout rooms, I have the option of allowing participants to choose a room, or if I want to group my students, I can. But let's look at what was done. The breakout rooms were named, the naming protocol that was on Canvas for the Canvas work. That was the same naming protocol that I used in Zoom, okay? So if I'm Team Bluebird, Bluebird's got to be the same way on Canvas, so that way my students know what work they have to complete, okay? So then I had, there's another option where you can allow participants or to return to the main session at any time, all right? I had turned that off because I didn't want y'all to leave that room, all right? So sometimes, that may work, where you want them to be able to go back to the room or whatever, maybe it's, whatever's going on. But if you want to have that option, you can leave that up there, but I turned that off because I wanted you to stay in your breakout room. Excuse me. That way, when I got ready to pop in, I didn't have to go find out where Brandy was or where Nicole was, okay? Then there's another one, automatically move all participants into the breakout room. That's if I don't want you to accept the invitation. So I could choose that option if I was afraid that my students wouldn't accept the invitation, or they wouldn't see it, or they had something else pulled up, instead of Zoom, then I can automatically just push you into there without the invitation. All right, so that was an option of 3 breakout rooms, and the teacher was floating from room to room. All right, and then there were certain protocols in place, like the ask for help button. Now, neither one of you asked me for help, so there was that 3 before me protocol that was already in place, so that way my students are doing their independent. They're working independently, but they're in groups and they have the option to collaborate if they want to. All right. Then there were different supports that were put in place, like the verbal instructions. If I wanted to do a video, say for instance, I just cannot grasp the fact of leaving my students in a room by themselves. Well, let's put in some different supports. There's a checklist that I can put in, not a checklist that offers choice. I could if I wanted to, but there's a checklist that my students can actually go through and say, hey, this is what I'm responsible for. This is what I do next, first, then middle, then next, okay? And then those buttons were put, they were designed in the course, so that way those students that are by themselves waiting on me, they were able to click, I'm done, and it takes them to whatever is next, okay? That comes with your course navigation. So there were different supports that were put in place just in case I cannot let my students go, without them. I can add a video instructions. I've got written instructions already. I can add verbal instructions in case I don't want to be on camera. All right, there is a second option that, we were just talking the other day and it just came out. The second option is to have one breakout room and keep all of your students on Zoom, have one breakout room, and the teacher would assign those students, it's kind of like a floating one, and the teacher would assign those particular students, whoever that she needs to call her Zoomies, she would assign them to that breakout room, and then she would have her face-to-face students meet her up at her small group table, and that be one breakout room while the other students are still on Zoom, and I am looking at them on my desktop, okay? So at first I thought, well, what if I put them in gallery view and left the button that says they cannot unmute themselves? So that's good, but I left them up on my smart board. Well, that might create some type of classroom management issues within the class because, students whose camera is on and whatever the case is. So I can extend my screen and drag it back onto my primary screen, but that only can happen if my small group table and my desktop are by each other. All right, so that's one thing that I can do, or I can do it on my laptop and log in as a co-host on my Chromebook. Okay, so once again, that is one group, and I'm in the group working with my students, but I have my other students pulled up in gallery view, so that way I can see each one of their screens. And what if it's not to see? Because guess what? Their camera is off. It could be simply to manage the chat. All
So
right. And so Miss Carol, thank you. She says she likes that idea. All right.
I have a
And so
question.
as you keep on moving, with the, gotcha. Did anybody say something? Yes.
Yes, Maloney, I have a question.
Thank you.
So when you say the others, you're talking in reference to the roomies being on Zoom while you put the Zoomies in a breakout room.
No. I'm saying my small group, if I'm working with small group A, they're in a group with me. In a small group. My roomies, of course, I'm right there. I'm managing them because I'm right here, face to face with them. My other students who it's not time for group B and group C. They are still on Zoom, but I've got them in gallery view over here on my desktop, not pulled up on my smart board. But I've got them in gallery view over here on my desktop. That way I can see if they need some type of help. And then I uncheck that button so that way they can't unmute themselves. They're still on Zoom. They're just waiting for me to pull them into that small group, that one small group that I have. That's the option of doing the 3 versus the 1. All right, let's see. Somebody says, why not have the roomies and Zoomies in a small group at the same time, all on Zoom? It's up to you. It's up to you. We find sometimes it depends on the teacher. I find it easier to manage a smaller group. So it's up to you. Miss Moore came up, she said that she does that in another group. During her small group times, she will have her roomies to join Zoom during that time. Okay. All right, good. So that is another option, your 3 Zoom rooms versus your 1 Zoom room, okay? So then Miss Evans, let me talk about the pros of this. The pros is we have an opportunity to do small groups with both my face-to-face and my Zoomies and my roomies, my face-to-face and my HOL kids, okay? So this is a plus. If I wanted to, reduce that Zoom time for my students in face-to-face, then the option would be for them not to join Zoom. There's no right or wrong answer. This is just a different way or a different strategy that you can do it, just presenting the ideas, okay? You may come up with a 3rd way to do it, a 4th way, all right? So it's up to you. Miss Evans in a group says something about, Miss Evans, ask your question again. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Ask your question again.
How would you, if you're working with a small group, how can you, my issue was, how can you still monitor the other small groups while you're working with the group? Because we have that issue of some of them wanting to leave or other issues like that.
All right, or in there, cutting up, right?
Yeah.
All right, so once again, this is something that you have to practice. Certain protocols have to be put in place. Maybe you would have today's we're operating on our small group schedule. Maybe today you would have a group leader, all right, and you would maybe have a they're just the ones that's a monitor for that particular day. So that would be good. Or that opens the door for Go Guardian. Okay, so let me go and I'm gonna click on. All right, so Go Guardian. Okay, this the training on this particular the training on this particular thing, let's Zoom and more Go Guardian, that premiered back at the end of January. Okay, so feel free to go find this video on our YouTube channel, but I just want to highlight a couple of things that it can do. Okay, so this is a way for us to use Go Guardian with our small groups. Okay, so Ms. Covington already did the training for us, and I just took a couple of screenshots of different things that the program can do. So here I have my class in a session, right? And so it's telling me everything that each student is on. All right, every app, the application that they have open. And of course, I've got my other stuff that we learned, a couple of years ago that we learned our screens and timelines. I got my screenshots. But here is the new option to call the students, okay? So they're in a session, right, which is good, but I can now call them back. So because we have bandwidth issues, because we have students in houses of 3 or more, and Zoom is a bandwidth hog, and they're on one hotspot, right? All right, and I deal with hotspots, so that's why I'm like on my soapbox for a little bit. But because we have those issues, Go Guardian is a way for you to call those students back, release them from Zoom when it's not time for them to be called to your small group. Call those students back with this feature, okay? All right, so I'm going to. All right, so let's keep on moving. So after I select my student, I'm going to select Danielle. All right, so I'm going to select Danielle, and it tells me Danielle Fryer. She's one of my students, and she is on YouTube right now. Luckily, she's not watching anything bad. She's watching the Yellowstone National Park footage, okay? So she's on, and I've got my different. I did what? And then I've got different things that I can do, screenshot if I ever need to. But here I've selected one student that I want to call. It's time for me to call Danielle back on Zoom for some one-on-one. So I'm going to click the call student button. If I want to send her an announcement, I can, all right? So it's going to call her. On Danielle's screen, on Danielle's screen, and I'm using Ms. Covington's class, on Danielle's screen, this is what it's going to look like. Miss Covington wants to start a call with you. And guess what? It looks just like our iPhone or our Android phone. You can accept or decline. And there are also a lot of different options. And Danielle has a reason why she doesn't want to decline. There's a reason for, I'm sick. We're in COVID times. I'm sick. I need privacy right now. I'm busy, or, so there's different options that Danielle can choose from to choose why she is declining the call. And that kind of gives the teacher, a little bit of insight as to what's going on. All right. And so that's what it will look like. Now, what I like about this is it's not a small little banner that pops up on the side that can be easily missed. This thing takes over your whole screen. All right. So there's no reason why they didn't see it unless they're, not at the computer for right then at that moment. So that's how you can call one student. All right, and that's what it looks like on their screen. Now, if I want to call my entire class, all right, if I want to call my entire class, here I have my class, and in my class right now, so it's 5 students, right? I can click the select all button, and it's going to call all of them, all right? And then I can choose which way I'm going to call. So as soon as I click the call button, it's going to give me some video settings video settings that I can choose on how I want to call my students. Do I want to mute them? Maybe there's no reason for them to talk back to me, and I'm saying, hey guys, report for small groups, all right, or report for group A, all right. So I can mute them. There's no reason for them to talk back. Or if I want to disable the student webcams in case you have, classroom management issue with them seeing each other or whatever the case is, I can disable the student webcams whenever I call all of these students. So this gives me the opportunity to call all of my students. All right, let's keep on moving. All right, also in this session, I can create student groups. Why is that important? Well, Dean, got it practice, right? When it's time for me to call my A group students or my B group students, I can create those groups. Of course, we want to keep the same naming protocols that we have in Canvas and Zoom, all right? And I can call only a select group of students. So I'm going to click right here I am in my live session again. I'm gonna click right here on student groups. And then that's gonna open me up to the groups that I have created. All right. And then it gives you the option to create custom groups, all right, or random groups. Of course, random is exactly what it says. It's going to randomize, just choose groups, all right? If you have no type of grouping protocol, then that will be a good option for you. But if you have custom groups, I heard Ms. Covington say things like, if I wanted to group them by their academic level, if I wanted to group them based on who needs help with or support with this type of skill within the standard, I can group them that way. I can group them as by intervention. If I want to do one student, then, you know, of course, you know, you can call them by one time, by selecting one student. But if I wanted to, you know, put them in a group or add somebody later, then I can. Okay, so these are my at-risk students. These are my students who are having social emotional issues, you know, with being away from their class or whatever the case is. I can also group. So I've got my custom groups and I've got my random groups. All right, moving right along. Once I am in the groups, then there's my little thing where I can name them to where I need to name them to. All right, and then I can select them all and call the entire group. Or what if I know that Daniela and Stan, let's say Brandon and Stan are not here today, all right, they're cousins. They are not here today. I can select just Mickey and Danielle from that group. All right, so there's no point of bringing their computer and you know, they weren't here today or whatever the case was. They never reported to Zoom. This gives me the option to select a certain amount of students within the group. Oops. All right, so Go Guardian calling feature. That allows your students to get off of Zoom and you still call them back. It's not a little ticker or anything on the side that they can miss. It is simply taking over the whole screen. You cannot miss a call from Go Guardian. All right. So also it's on our YouTube channel and you can take advantage of looking at that video, and it premiered at the end of January. It is on our YouTube channel. If you need extra help on that, or if maybe you need help setting up a Go Guardian account or anything like that, make sure that you reach out to our team. Thank you. Whew.
It's a lot, right? Okay, I'm just gonna real quick drag this over here because I'm not gonna turn my head the entire time. I'm probably gonna need to reshare this, so give me just 1 second. There we go. All right, we should be back. All right, scroll on down. Man alive, I tell you, you switch from Mac to Windows and trying to remember which way to scroll the mouse button. It's real. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go back and take a look at some of the questions that you all posted at the beginning of the session, questions and concerns, and see if we addressed any of them today or if there's still some that are sticking out. Okay, so let's take a look here. Let's see, okay. How do I do it with both if I'm using a sheet in class? Now, I'm not sure, Ms. Moore, what you mean by that question. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Figured it out. My
You
problem
figured it
was
out. All right. Hey.
I didn't know how to take a picture with the Chromebook, but I just learned.
Gotcha. All right, good. Well, I don't know if we're responsible for teaching you, but I'm going to pretend like we did. So go us. Okay.
Yes, you did. You were responsible.
All right.
Thanks.
No problem. How can I make activities for both online and in-person students? What's the best way to present the information? So that's a good question, Mr. Roberts. I think obviously when you're making activities, you need to keep in mind whether you're there with them during that time or not. And this is a good point to mention, right? That especially during small groups, guided practice and independent practice overlap, right? Because when you are working with a small group doing guided practice, the other students truly, that's independent practice time. Fortunately for you, everyone out there, there's an entire session coming up dedicated to independent practice, which Shanna, she's still in here. Shanna, hi Shanna back there. Which Shanna will be delivering. Is it next week? Next week's session? I don't remember when. Next week.
It's next week.
So feel free to tune in, and we're going to talk all about independent practice and some of the different ways you can do activities with students for both your online and in-person students. My quick answer to the best way to present the information is truly going to be laying it out in your module in a way that makes sense for them, right? And there's a couple different tips and tricks there, but it's all about the module design really. All right, moving on. I know I didn't give you a lot there, Ms. Roberts. I hope it was enough. Okay, hybrid learning so far has been really good, but some tech issues. Yep, tech issues are always a problem. Yep. Facilitating guided practice and online platform, which we talked about today, Mr. Hall. Good. Okay, so not too many questions there, which is good. That makes me feel good, actually, that maybe we're not as concerned about it as we were when this process started. But let's take a few moments now. If anybody else out there that didn't type something in or would rather ask out loud, if you'd like to, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and we'll be happy to answer your question, or at least try. If I had the Jeopardy music, I'd play it. Anybody? No? We're shy today. They're like, let's move along. Okay, that's totally fine. I will also say, if you are like me, you will think of 10 questions to ask as soon as I end this meeting. So if that's you, feel free to reach out to anybody here on the team. Okay, we are all here to help. So send us an email, dtif@, or if you know any of our individual email addresses, I'm sure we won't ignore it if you send it to us that way either. I do want to take a moment and point you once again to our YouTube channel, where there are all sorts of videos and recorded sessions included, including on hybrid instruction, on the wonderful Go Guardian. Nicole did a great session explaining in more detail how you can use that to call your students and manage the students who are not in your small group with you. So do that. You can also check out our website. There's the link right there, which has all sorts of stuff linked as well. If there aren't any other questions, I'm going to say that you're free to go. But before you do, make sure you sign in the chat, please, with your full name and your school assignment. We want to make sure that you get credit for attending today, and you are only going to get credit if you sign in. So in the chat, first and last name and your school, please. All right, so I'll leave the speakers on in case anybody wants to ask anything else on your way out the door. If you don't have anything else, then we'll see you next time. Thanks for coming.